Oh. Why does that come up there? I don't know. What is going on? Does help if you press the right button, doesn't it? Stupid boy. There we go.
There you are.
There he is.
Bless you.
So, Chair, just to confirm, the meeting's now been live streamed.
Thank you, Hannah. Welcome, everybody, to the Cabinet Policy Development Working Group. It is the inaugural sitting of this so-called group. For anybody that's confused, we are the artists formerly known as the Cabinet Overview Working Group. Should we get straight onto the agenda? Number one is apologies for absence. Do we have any?
Is Francis on this meeting as well?
Not that I'm aware of.
I think she came to another one, but that may have...
She came to the one in March.
Yes.
If she
we've changed the committees since then.
We have, yeah. I can't remember whether Francis is
She's not, because she's not. She's portfolio holder for governance, isn't she?
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you, Danny.
Any other apologies for absence at all? Anybody's aware of? Can't see any hands. Could be wrong. Okay, so item number 2 is declarations of interest. Are there any? No hands. So we're on to the minutes of the last meeting, which was held on the 12th of March 2020. Completely different world then, of course. Do we all approve them?
Agree.
Agree.
Thank you very much. And are there any matters arising from those?
Yes, Chair.
Councillor Carter?
Thank you. Minute 29, Regeneration Strategy Interim Report. It was resolved that a final report will be reported to the working group in the next municipal year. But I noticed it's not on the work plan, so I'm wondering what's happened to it.
Sorry, sorry.
I can tell you what's happened to it, Simon. Really, very little. In the sense of, do you remember?
That? I realise that, but I thought an officer might come back and explain where it is. So yeah. I have given notice of this question. It's not a surprise.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
But no one's got an answer.
No, I would. I mean, I don't know whether the officers have also got an answer. I've not spoken to the officers, but in terms of the answer from where I'm coming from, if I remember rightly, we an interim report was put together. Julie Houston very kindly put together an interim report. There was then going to be further discussions, and then what happened was, thank you, Simon. And then what happened was that COVID descended, and then I think what with the change, with A COVID, B what's happened in terms of turnaround in terms of committee, it hasn't got picked up since then. So it needs to be picked up and followed through. So that would be that's what's happened.
But that was what, 8 months ago?
It may well have been, but yes, it's just like you have, for example. Looking back at it, I possibly should have raised some questions saying what's happened to it, just as other members who are on that committee could have raised some questions saying what's happened to it. We haven't raised a question saying what's happened to it until now, so we've arrived at this meeting. It needs to be, there's going to be further work done on it. And since that time, there's been changes in membership of the committee, etc., etc. So,
can I bring in Simon Freeman?
Yeah.
Thanks, Chair. I'm not an expert in where the regeneration strategy is at the moment, and I think Tony's summary is reasonable in terms of it's fallen behind with everything else that's been going on over the last few months. But I think if Jane was here to talk about the strategy, she would say that the work that's going on through the COVID recovery work, particularly around the business stream and the community stream, will be having an influence on how we come out of COVID and what the regeneration and recovery of Harlow looks like. So I think Jane's response would be, we recognise that it's not as far advanced as it would otherwise have been, but the actual COVID impacts are going to undoubtedly shape what the regeneration strategy looks like, and it's only right that we take that into consideration before it's prepared and brought back to the working group for consideration.
So it's a bit of a cart and horse. Which you have first, the strategy or the impact, and then the strategy follows the impact. You know, if you don't have a strategy, you don't know where it is you want to go and where you want to take the town. Surely it's better to have an overarching strategy and say, what have we got to do to bring the council and the town towards that, rather than waiting until things happen and then think, oh, well, we better do this.
I think what I would say, Simon, if I can come in, is we had Julia put together that interim report way back in, it was February time, and I can, if I was, unfortunately, because I'm working on the iPad, if I attempt to go into it, you won't see me and what I'll just go off Zoom and whatever. But we had that interim report, which we'd all sort of and that was quite a good sort of starting position. I think for what now needs to happen is that as a group, given there's been changes of membership, etc., we possibly need to agree to continue a small working group to look at it, as it were, and then put that on the work program and bring it back and do the mixture of the finishing work that needs to be done on it with the officers and what have you, and re-pick up on it.
Sorry, Tony. The minutes. Yeah. The first draft. The report that went to OB Working Group in 12th of March said, recommend that the working group notes the progress to date towards production of the region. The working group, it was basically, what we had was a series of notes, a series of previous reports, and where the direction of the report should be going. But if you remember, we had all those arrows and circles and things on the whiteboard. But there's a lot more work to do to knock it into.
There was indeed, which is the reason why I'm suggesting, and there was indeed a lot more work to be done, which is the reason why I'm suggesting that possibly as a way forward, Simon, acknowledge that, yes, how can I put it?
Well, if you want to propose that,
yeah, okay, well, I propose that, and I'm not formally a member of I'm a, what's the word, substitute, one of the word is on this group now, so perhaps it needs to come from other members, as it were. But I think what needs to be done is that you need to reconstitute, for want of a better word, a small working group, and a discussion needs to be done to meet up with the officers and then come back with a series of proposals, etc., for discussion of this group. That would be my way forward on it.
Well, sorry, Teddy, are you a substitute tonight?
No, I'm not substitute.
So what are you doing here?
The reason I'm here is because I thought it as previously chairing the previous group, and also having some knowledge of. I thought it might be useful just to throw in some idea, to throw in terms of continuity, and then I'll shut up basically.
If I could come in here, it's Tony was accidentally sent your questions as the car, because it seemed that nobody had known that the chair had changed from the previous group. He forwarded them on to me, but it just so happens that he had a bit more information with regards to your question for the work plan, so he thought he'd come along tonight and share that all with us. I think that's where we are, isn't it, Councillor?
Yeah, that's right. I can stay stum from here on in if that would be helpful.
No, just please. Good. Well, I'll propose that the working group is reconvened, or the subgroup, or whatever it was we were, on the regen strategy, with a view to getting it back on track. If somebody would like to second that, and if Hannah can knock some words into that.
I'll second it.
Well, I'll second it.
Okay.
Thank you much indeed.
So the next thing
So we proposed that the subgroup for the Regen Enterprise be reconstituted. If Tony's not here, we will need to appoint, well, we need to reappoint members as well. But perhaps people can think about that and volunteer to Hannah or to the chair within the next 7 days, and we can go on from there.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Okay, good. Any other matters arising from the minutes?
Sorry, Chair, I think we need to have a vote on that.
We probably better vote on it, Chair.
Oh, okay. Let's have a vote on that then.
All those in favour?
Well, then, all those in favour.
I think that's a very good idea.
So that's all those against. Do I need to really ask that? I think that's carried, isn't it?
Yep.
Good.
Thank you, Chair.
Right then, moving swiftly along. Number 5 is the local council tax support scheme. I'd like to bring in Donna on this, if possible, to give us a bit of a summary on the report.
Chair, so I'll just interrupt for a second if I can.
Sure.
Donna, she's having some technical difficulties. She can't hear what's going on in the meeting, so she won't be able to.
Simon, can I just interrupt? I'm just on the phone with Donna at the moment, trying to sort it out. So she can hear us,
Right.
but she's not sure whether we'll hear her.
Right. I mean,
He's on mute.
If people have read the report, which I imagine they have, I mean, are we happy to take questions on it? If that's okay. I mean, we can sort of forego the technical difficulties.
Can we do a sound check with Donna? Chair?
Donna, can you hear us?
Yeah, sure.
I can hear you.
Oh,
We can
okay.
hear you.
Can you hear
We
me?
can nearly hear you.
Just about.
I don't know what's going on. I've used this iPad for every single work meeting.
Sorry, Nicola.
So I don't know what
I can see her as well.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we'll
Can you
give it
hear
a go.
Yeah, go on then.
Sorry, Donna
It's
appears to
not
be
going
here.
to work. Sorry.
Is appearing twice. Have you got 2 logons?
Oh, gone complete. There we go.
She's left now.
You upset her, Councillor Carter.
Oh dear. There she's left.
Okay, so technical difficulties we seem to have. Shall we wait until Donna can come back on, or shall we just sort of move straight to questions if anybody's got any on the report? I don't know whether we'll be able to answer them if Donna can't get on, but
I'll do my best, Chair.
yeah, thank you. Councillor Carter, Simon Carter.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, it's just a simple question. Is the scheme changed from last year in any material way?
No, it's not. No.
Okay.
We decided under the current climate that there was no need to review, and we're obviously administering the additional payments to those on LCTS that the government have provided to us for the £150 discount this year. And there is indication that some of that might continue into next year from the autumn statement details released yesterday. So no, there's no material or fundamental change to the scheme as it operates this year, moving into next year.
So, okay, sorry, I did have a question. On paragraph 11, page 6, you referred to the hardship payment of £150. I noticed from your figures there's still £131,000 left. Is that to be used for the rest of this year? Is it going to be carried forward? Does it get repaid, or what happens?
It looks like Donna we can't hear Donna at the moment, so I'll respond if that's okay, Chair. Yeah, the intention is that the money is for this year, and obviously we have people that come on and off of the scheme through the year, and new claimants would be entitled. So the balance is to be used for any future payments we make to new claimants later in the year.
Thank you much. Thank you.
Are there any other questions on the local council tax support scheme? Councillor Hallcoop and then Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Chair. On page 19, 3.1, it mentions public consultation and online questionnaire. A question that we sometimes do pick up on, anyone who hasn't got online, how do they respond to this public consultation? Because they obviously wouldn't get the questionnaire on the online system. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, so because there isn't any change to the scheme, Councillor Hallcott, that we aren't in a position where we need to undertake that consultation for next year. That refers to the process we went through for the current scheme, which will be extended through to next year.
That still mean that when we go back into it again, if potentially that we would be contacting people that didn't have the online questionnaire?
We do use a variety of different methods. It's not just online.
Okay. Right, thank you.
Councillor Clark.
I just wanted to say that I was pleased with the progress and pleased to see that there's good engagement, I think, with the words, and people were agreeing to make a payment arrangement, so there's a sort of goodwill over the whole arrangements, which there hadn't always been in the past, so that's all good. And I think you said that you not undertaken any formal recovery. Well, actually, the government said that there should be no formal recovery, I think. But anyway, that's good, and no formal summons. And good that we've not passed on the reductions to the claimants. So all in all, fine. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Are there any other questions? Okay then, so the recommendation is that the Policy Development Working Group acknowledges the current position regarding the 2020-21 Local Council Tax Support Scheme and endorses continuing stability within the scheme for 2021-2022. Can we say that the recommendation, I mean, is it noted? We all good?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Okay, that's good. All right, back to the agenda. I was going to say, after that previous agenda item, Donna can leave if she wants to, but I think she's probably gone anyway. I would like to thank her for her contribution. I mean, she had a contribution pre-meet as well, which is quite good. So next one is number 6, which is the Treasury Management Strategy. Simon, could I bring you in for a little bit of a overview on this?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So this is our sort of mid-year review leading into the development of the strategy for next year. There will be a formal review document for the mid-year point at Cabinet on the 3rd of December. Unfortunately, prior to the agenda papers being distributed for this meeting, we weren't in a position to be able to bring that paper with the agenda papers for tonight. It wasn't finalised by the time the papers were released, but it doesn't really deviate significantly from the content of the report that's before the committee tonight. So really, I suppose all I really wanted to bring to the working group's attention this evening was that I suppose we've reported in the past that our options for investment, particularly given the security of the investments that we seek to achieve, are becoming increasingly problematic over the past 6 to 9 months. We reported previously, and it was included in the current Treasury strategy, that we were looking to diversify more into investing with other local authorities. And that would enable us to move away from higher risk investment options. I think what we've seen over the last 6 months, and probably to an extent very similar to what we've been doing ourselves, is that most local authorities have been using their own cash reserves because of the issues around investment security, and the local authority market has become very sparse in terms of options to invest our overnight and short-term cash investments. So we have, with security in mind, we have made much more use so far this financial year of the deposit facility with the Treasury itself. And ultimately, what we will see, I think, over the remainder of this year, and as we report when we come to outturn, that will inevitably have an impact on the return that we achieve on our cash investments. So that was one issue I wanted to draw to the working group's attention. And inevitably, because of the strategy we're adopting at the moment, in terms of using our cash reserves rather than going out and borrowing, some members may be aware that only yesterday there was an announcement that the borrowing rates for local authorities have been reduced by 1 percentage point, yes, as of yesterday. So it would have been a much higher cost of borrowing for us if we had undertaken borrowing earlier in the year before that cut was introduced. So that's welcome news. There are some other changes that there'll be more detail around the PWLB changes in the report to the January Cabinet. There's been a review of PWLB borrowing, and the announcements from that review have been released, and we're in the process of looking through what implications they have for Harlow and its investment and borrowing activity. I think one of the major headlines, and the working group might not be surprised at this, there's been lots of press around about other local authorities borrowing significant amounts of money from the PWLB to invest into speculative investment properties. And the review of the PWL borrowing arrangements has come down quite strongly on that activity to prevent PWLB being a source of funding for that activity moving forward. So we will be considering what impact that has for Harlow in the strategy that will come forward into the January Cabinet, and we're looking at that at the moment. So whilst our cash balances have been reducing, that is an intended move on the council's part, because we are literally running out of options for deposit that gives any kind of return. So we are using our cash flow at the moment, and we are deferring borrowing until a future date. I don't think I really wanted to say much more than that on the report tonight, Chair. Hopefully everybody's had a chance to have a look through the papers, and I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Thank you, Simon. Do we have any questions for Simon? Councillor Carter. Simon.
Thank you. I have given notice of this question. I noticed in paragraph 13, you refer to the possibility of the Debt Management Office rates going negative. But what I was inquiring about was the much wider implications of the Bank of England base rate going below zero, and what the impact would be, say, on the wider market, in particular with regard to the council as being a professional investor.
So in response to the question, we've already seen a negative return at the DMO, the Treasury Deposit Facility, and it's been very targeted at particular levels of investment. So investments of over £1 million and short-term investments. So again, investments of less than 3 weeks. We've avoided being impacted by that by making any investments with the DMO outside of the parameters that would attract a negative interest rate. So we haven't actually had a direct impact on our own cash deposits, but we've certainly seen it happening back in the autumn with the DMO. And I think in terms of the wider economy, if there is a move for a negative interest rate to be introduced, I think where the majority of impact will be seen from that will be in terms of major banking activity, because the idea will be that will stimulate banks to lend more money into the economy, because by hanging on to their cash balances and investing them in deposits, they will actually be eroding the value of that cash balance. So it really would be used, I think, more as a stimulus to encourage banks to invest in the economy as we come out of the COVID crisis. But it certainly hasn't happened yet on the scale that Councillor Carter's referring to, but certainly we have seen it within the DMO deposit facility already.
Thank you much. Thank you.
Do we have any other questions on the Treasury management strategy? Councillor Clark and then Councillor Holcoop.
Well, first of all, is just a question that I meant to ask yesterday. I'll ask it now because it's and that's just concerning the disposal of assets. There was a very and this is raised tonight as well. All I wanted to know was who actually decides when assets are to be disposed of.
It really, to be honest, Jean, it actually forms part of our wider sort of capital strategy. If there is a disposal to be made, there are financial rules that are in place within our constitution around how those disposals are made and how the decisions are taken to dispose of those assets. Ordinarily, there would only be assets that we no longer require for the delivery of our services, but they could be, for example, there could be some small parcels of land that we hold that could have value. We have no need to use them for service delivery, but from a capital point of view, they can be quite valuable in terms of aiding other developments, and therefore they attract a higher value. But in terms of the disposal, if there was a need to, they would go through cabinet, but ordinarily they can be taken through officer or portfolio holder decision.
Right. So it's either through officers according to certain rules and simple things. Anything totally controversial.
It's all part of the financial regulations in the Constitution. Yeah, and that's what we would follow if we were disposing of assets.
Okay, thank you. The other issue. Well, I was going to raise a question of local authorities as well, especially now. Some local authorities are questioning whether they're even going concerns. I don't know whether they're just making a point, hopefully, but literally it's more than problem in some cases, isn't it?
I suppose just in response to that, Chair, there's a couple of things there really. One, set out in the report at the point of reporting to the working group tonight, we don't currently have any deposits with local authorities. We did have last year, but at the moment we don't. But equally, if there was an investment opportunity that presented itself with another local authority, the Treasury advisors that we use, Arlene Close, they actually operate a sort of a database that we have access to. So whereas with other institutions, we look at commercial ratings to determine whether an institution is financially stable enough for us to invest in. The Arlene Close tool does a similar kind. It's not a commercially available tool outside of our Treasury advisors, but it certainly looks at lots of indicators from local authority accounts that they deal with that will give us indications as to the strength of the local authority. And we do rely on those to just do a check on the local authorities before we would carry out any investment with them.
Right. Okay, thank you. And the last one, just a brief one, and that's the question of the risk of Brexit, which is touched upon, but not mentioned very much. What's your, I mean, with hindsight, because I know reports are written at an earlier stage, but the nearer we get, the worse it gets, doesn't it?
Yeah, so what I'd say in response to that, Chair, is that sort of this time last year and in the report that went to the January Cabinet, we had recognised some of the risks that exist around Brexit, particularly if we were investing in organisations that are predominantly reside within Europe itself, outside of the UK border. So we took a conscious decision that with the risks still surrounding Brexit, that we would not invest in those institutions until we'd got through the Brexit deal effectively and the exit at the end of this year. So as things currently stand, a number of our investment tools are currently not being used simply because of the Brexit risk.
Right. Okay. Right. Thank you.
Councillor Hawker.
Thank you, Chair. Just one question. With the vaccine potential, I mean, we've got 3 that are being flagged up at the moment. Has there been any light shed by banks and big businesses that they see some sort of light at the end of the tunnel because of these vaccines kicking in next year, and they have more hope of the way forward, which would then also potentially affect local authorities? Thank you, Chair.
It's not something that has really shown any presence in the investment markets that we operate in at the moment, Maggie. I'm sure there will be some impact at some point as we move nearer to that being available. I think the area you see more volatility and movement in those announcements is things like the currency exchanges.
Right.
But we don't actively take any part in that sort of monetary transaction. Ours are purely sterling-based deposits that we make for short-term periods. So we aren't really at the moment seeing any direct impact of the vaccine issue. I mean, all I can really say is that, you know, rates are historically low. We went down to 0.1% in the Bank of England base rate in March as we headed into the pandemic. There's been no movement on that since. I think Councillor Carter has already alluded to the fact that there is a risk that interest rates could potentially go negative. I don't think any of us with mortgages would benefit from that, but certainly in the interbank transaction world, it would have an impact. But certainly I've not seen anything that's had a direct impact on our investment returns as a result of the talk about vaccine production.
Right, thank you, Chair.
Are there any other questions on the Treasury Management Review? Can't see any hands. So the recommendation is that we consider the report and the underpinning principles that support the Council's Treasury Management Strategy and refer any specific issues identified as a result of the review to Cabinet consideration. Are there any specific issues that we identified that as a result of the review that we want to send to Cabinet at all? Councillor Carter.
I think probably only the blindingly obvious ones, like the impact of the virus and the things that will also spin off from that, and the potential impact. You know, it's the known unknowns, if you like, and of course where interest rates may well be moving as well. So we'll just highlight those as features which possibly need to be addressed in the forthcoming reports.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Carter. Anything else? Any other issues that we'd like to pass along? Can't see any hands. Okay, so do we note the report then? We good with that? Yeah.
Noted or agreed.
Yeah, well noted, agreed. I'll take that. So move on to item number 7, which is the work plan. Controversial work plan as it works out. And there it is.
Or isn't.
Or isn't, indeed. Do we have any questions about the work plan?
Well, what's on it?
Well, that could be a question, I suppose. Anybody that'd like to come in on this?
Well,
Councillor Carter.
do we have any idea when the climate change strategy and transport strategy are going to be forthcoming for us to have a look at? Otherwise, why are they on the work plan?
I don't have an answer for that personally right now, but I can hopefully get one for you.
Yeah, certainly take that away from this evening and try and get something back to the committee via the governance team around when they might be available for the working group to consider.
Thank you. It's just odd having them on the work plan and sort of nothing.
No plan.
Yeah. Okay, thank you much.
Okay. Anybody else? Councillor Hallgood.
Thank you, Chair. We've already discussed the regeneration strategy in the working party. Is that going to have a timescale, that part, the working party, so that before we get to the March, we'll know that we can bring that regeneration back in? Because if we don't have a sort of a timescale for the working party, the work can't be done potentially to bring it back before we finish this whole year session. It's got to have a life, when you're working on it. I'm give that life.
Is Tony still here? No, he's not.
He's gone.
No, you're absolutely right. We need to have some deadlines on that. But we need, this working group needs to nominate members of that working party, and then we need to set up an initial meeting with Jane and possibly Julie to see where we are, and then to set a timetable from there, and then obviously report back to the working group. So I'll probably say something like 2 months to report back. Does that sound reasonable, Simon?
Yeah, I think so. I can't speak with Jane tomorrow. She's actually on leave this week, but I've certainly made a note of it to pick it up with her on Monday when we're both back in the office and we can have a chat about it.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you.
Okay. Any more for any more? So,
no.
I think we're not seeing any hands. Okay, so item number 8, are there any matters of urgent business? Have a look. Can't see any hands. In which case, I should bring the meeting to a close.
Well
Thank you all for attending tonight.